Think about the invisible, heavy threads that dictate your daily choices, your reactions, and your deepest emotional states. Because if you truly pay attention to the silent mechanics of human interaction, you will realize that almost everything you do is influenced by the unseen forces of external manipulation. We live in a highly complex, deeply predatory psychological landscape, where every day people are actively, sometimes unconsciously, attempting to bend your will, distort your reality, and harvest your emotional energy for their own selfish gain. You have been conditioned since childhood to be polite, to be accommodating, to avoid conflict at all costs, and to always assume the best intentions in others. But this beautiful, naive empathy is the exact vulnerability that manipulators weaponize against you. The fundamental premise of the groundbreaking philosophy found in Become Impossible to Manipulate is that manipulation is not a rare, sinister event perpetrated by villains in dark alleys. It is a mundane, everyday occurrence happening in your workplace, in your friendships, and in your romantic relationships. To become truly impervious to these subtle attacks, you must first completely dismantle your naive understanding of human nature and recognize that manipulation is simply the dark art of emotional leverage. The most effective manipulators do not use threats or physical force. They use your own virtues, your kindness, your guilt, and your profound desire to be loved as the very ropes they use to tie you down. The first concept you must deeply understand is the architecture of the manufactured debt. A skilled manipulator will never simply ask you for a massive favor or demand your obedience. Instead, they will carefully engineer a situation where they do something seemingly generous for you, something you did not ask for, creating an invisible, heavy ledger of obligation in your mind. They will buy you a gift, cover a shift at work, or offer unsolicited advice. And the moment you accept, a psychological trap springs shut. Weeks or months later, when they need you to cross your own boundaries, to compromise your morals, or to sacrifice your own well-being for their benefit, they will gently, silently, pull on that string of obligation, making you feel entirely selfish and ungrateful if you dare to say no. Consider the tragic, all too common story of Elias, a brilliant but overly accommodating graphic designer who fell into the trap of a highly manipulative corporate director. The director began by offering Elias extreme, almost uncomfortable levels of praise, taking him out to expensive lunches, and treating him like an absolute equal, completely bypassing the normal corporate hierarchy. Elias felt special, chosen, and deeply indebted to this director, who had supposedly discovered his true genius. But this was merely the setup, the love-bombing phase, designed entirely to lower Elias's natural defenses and create a powerful trauma bond. Once the invisible debt was established, the director slowly began to extract his payment. He would call Elias late at night, demanding emergency revisions on projects that were not Elias's responsibility, framing these demands as favors for a friend, and casually reminding Elias of all the opportunities he had provided him. When Elias, exhausted and burning out, mildly attempted to set a boundary and reclaim his weekends, the director immediately shifted tactics to the second devastating weapon of manipulation: gaslighting and guilt. The director did not yell. Instead, he acted profoundly hurt, looking at Elias with a masterfully crafted expression of disappointment. quietly stating that he thought they had a special understanding, that he thought Elias was dedicated to the vision, and twisting reality to make Elias believe that his simple request for sleep was an act of profound professional betrayal. Gaslighting is the most insidious psychological weapon ever devised, because its ultimate goal is not just to make you comply, but to make you completely lose trust in your own perception of reality. The manipulator will deny conversations that absolutely happened. They will accuse you of being too sensitive or crazy when you react to their abuse, and they will slowly, methodically chip away at your sanity until you are forced to rely on them to tell you what is real and what is false. Elias, caught in this dizzying psychological maze, actually apologized to the director for setting a boundary, completely surrendering his autonomy. To prevent this from ever happening to you, you must understand the concept of emotional sovereignty. You must realize that your empathy is a finite, incredibly valuable resource, and you cannot afford to give it away to people who view it as a weakness to be exploited. Manipulators scan the crowd for people who have weak boundaries, people who over-explain their decisions, and people who are deeply afraid of being disliked. When a manipulator tests your boundary for the first time, perhaps by making a slightly insulting joke disguised as banter, or asking for a small, unreasonable favor, they are watching your reaction with the cold, calculating eyes of a predator. If you laugh nervously, if you explain why you can't do the favor instead of just giving a firm refusal, you have just signaled to them that your walls are made of paper. The only way to stop a manipulator in the early stages is to completely remove the emotional padding from your responses. You must learn to observe their behavior without absorbing their manufactured emotions. When they play the victim, trying to drain your sympathy with a fabricated crisis to get you to do their work, you must look at their tears and their dramatic sighs not as a call to action and not as your responsibility to fix, but as a calculated performance designed to extract a specific reaction from you. This requires a terrifying, agonizing paradigm shift where you must brutally accept that not everyone has a good heart, that some people are fundamentally parasitic, and that your desire to fix or save them is nothing more than your own ego blinding you to the reality of their toxic nature. As you begin to see through the matrix of these manipulative tactics, as you start noticing the subtle guilt trips, the backhanded compliments, the shifting of blame, and the weaponized silence of the people around you, you will feel a profound sense of isolation and anger. You will realize how much of your life has been quietly steered by the emotional demands of others. But this anger is the sacred, necessary fuel that will propel you into the second, impenetrable phase of your psychological evolution, where you transition from merely seeing the manipulation to becoming an absolute, unmovable fortress against it. As you step out of the fog of emotional manipulation and enter the stark, brilliant light of psychological independence, you must forge a new, unbreakable identity built on the foundational concept of absolute emotional stoicism. The defining characteristic of a person who is impossible to manipulate is not that they are mean, aggressive, or cruel, but rather that they are completely and utterly emotionally unresponsive to toxic provocation. Manipulators feed exclusively on your emotional reactions. Whether they extract a reaction of profound guilt, desperate people-pleasing, explosive anger, or frantic self-defense, as long as you are reacting. They are in absolute control of your nervous system. To break this control, you must master the ultimate defensive posture, a psychological fortress often referred to as the void response. When a manipulator attempts to bait you by insulting you, by giving you the silent treatment to make you anxious, or by twisting your words to make you look like the villain, they expect a predictable sequence of events. They expect you to scramble, to explain yourself, to beg for their understanding, or to lose your temper, which they will then use as proof that you are the unstable one. The void response denies them this entire sequence. When they launch an emotional attack, you do not defend yourself, you do not counterattack, and you do not explain your position. You simply look at them with absolute, terrifying neutrality and offer nothing but a flat, emotionless acknowledgement, such as, "I see you feel that way," or you offer absolute, unbroken silence. Consider the transformative reality of Clara, a woman who had spent a decade trapped in a toxic relationship with a master manipulator who constantly used explosive anger and sudden, punishing withdrawals of affection to control her every move. Every time he threatened to leave, Clara would panic, abandon her own needs, and spend days frantically trying to appease him, endlessly apologizing for things she hadn't even done. The cycle was destroying her physical and mental health. When Clara finally understood the mechanics of the void response, she initiated a radical change in her behavior. The next time her partner engineered a massive, dramatic crisis over a minor misunderstanding, screaming and packing his bags to trigger her fear of abandonment, Clara did not cry. She did not block the door. She did not beg him to stay. She simply sat on the couch, looked at him with a calm, deadpan expression, and said, "Let me know when you are finished packing." The manipulator was instantly paralyzed. His entire script, his entire psychological control mechanism, relied completely on her frantic participation. And by simply withdrawing her emotional energy, she rendered his explosive behavior utterly powerless and ridiculous. The manipulator tried to escalate, throwing insults and attempting to spark her anger. But Clara remained an impenetrable fortress of silence, watching him as if he were a toddler having a tantrum in a supermarket. In that single, monumental moment of non-reaction, Clara stripped him of all his power forever. The practical application of this for your own life requires you to deeply understand that the word "no" is a complete sentence. The average, easily manipulated person believes that when they decline a request, set a boundary, or refuse a demand, they must provide a detailed, logical justification to soften the blow. This is a fatal psychological error. When you provide a justification to a manipulator, you are not explaining yourself. You are handing them the exact blueprint of your insecurities and giving them a puzzle to solve. If you say, "I can't lend you the money because I have to pay my rent," the manipulator will immediately start negotiating your budget, finding ways for you to do both, and making you feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. But if you simply look them in the eye and say, "No, I am not going to do that," and then close your mouth and embrace the heavy, awkward silence, the manipulator hits a solid brick wall. They cannot negotiate with a blank space. You must become incredibly comfortable with uncomfortable silences. You must train yourself to let a manipulator's leading questions and guilt trips hang awkwardly in the air, refusing to jump in and rescue the conversation. You must aggressively protect your personal reality by trusting your own memory and your own intuition over anyone else's subjective narrative. If someone tells you that you are remembering an event wrong or that you are overreacting, you must anchor yourself in your own sovereignty and silently reject their projection. Being impossible to manipulate ultimately means you completely surrender the deeply ingrained need to be universally liked, understood, and validated by the people around you. You must accept that setting ironclad boundaries will inevitably make toxic people very angry. And they will likely launch smear campaigns against you, painting you as cold, selfish, or difficult. You must wear the label of difficult as a badge of honor, a confirmation that your fortress is secure and that the parasites can no longer feed on your energy. The life of a deeply sovereign, unmanipulatable individual is a life of profound peace, mental clarity, and absolute freedom. But it requires the daily, ruthless discipline of guarding your mind against the subtle invasions of a noisy, demanding world. As you integrate these harsh, powerful truths into the very marrow of your identity, you will walk through the world differently. Your posture will change. Your gaze will become steady, and predators will instinctively pass you by, recognizing instantly that you are no longer prey, but a master of your own unbreakable reality. As you solidify your psychological fortress and begin to consistently deploy the void response, you will inevitably trigger the most dangerous, volatile, and terrifying phase of the manipulator's playbook, a psychological phenomenon clinically known as the extinction burst. When a parasite realizes that its host has suddenly cut off the vital supply of emotional energy, it does not simply pack up and walk away peacefully. It panics, it escalates, and it launches a desperate, chaotic, and explosive final assault designed to break your newly forged boundaries by any means necessary. You must understand with absolute clarity that when things suddenly get much worse, when the toxic people in your life suddenly become louder, more aggressive, or conversely more pitiful and weeping than ever before, it is not a sign that your boundaries are failing. It is the absolute, undeniable proof that your boundaries are working perfectly. An extinction burst is the manipulator's psychological death rattle, a furious temper tantrum thrown by a predator that is starving to death because you have finally refused to bleed for them. Consider the harrowing, deeply relatable story of Marcus, a highly empathetic and deeply loyal man who had spent his entire adult life being covertly manipulated by his older brother, a master of subtle sabotage and weaponized incompetence. For decades, Marcus had financially bailed out his brother, emotionally regulated him during his endless manufactured crises, and silently absorbed his biting, sarcastic insults disguised as brotherly advice. When Marcus finally awakened to this parasitic dynamic, he instituted a quiet but absolute boundary. He completely stopped offering financial loans, and he stopped answering his phone late at night when his brother was looking for a psychological punching bag. The brother's initial reaction was subtle guilt-tripping, dropping hints about how much he was struggling and how nice it must be for Marcus to have such a comfortable, easy life. When Marcus deployed the void response and met this guilt trip with absolute, terrifying silence, the brother initiated a massive, textbook extinction burst. He began a vicious, calculated smear campaign, calling all of their mutual relatives and painting Marcus as a cold, arrogant, and heartless monster who had abandoned his own blood in a time of need. When the smear campaign failed to provoke Marcus into an argument, the brother abruptly switched tactics, showing up at Marcus's house in tears, fabricating a massive, catastrophic medical scare, and begging for a return to the way things used to be, promising that he had changed, that he had seen the light, and that he desperately needed his brother's love. This is the exact moment where 99% of empathetic people fail. They look at the tears, they hear the desperate apologies, and their biological programming forces them to lower the drawbridge, foolishly believing that the manipulator has experienced a genuine moral awakening. But Marcus, armed with the philosophy of absolute emotional sovereignty, recognized this desperate display for exactly what it was: a theatrical performance, a final frantic pulling of every emotional lever to see which one would break the lock. Marcus looked at his weeping brother, felt a profound, heavy sadness for the brokenness of the situation, but he did not move an inch. He simply said, "I hope you find the help you need, but I can no longer be the one to provide it." And he gently, firmly closed the door. By surviving that brutal extinction burst, without surrendering a single ounce of his emotional energy, Marcus permanently severed the invisible, suffocating cords of manipulation that had choked him for a lifetime. But in doing so, he entered the most painful, isolating, and necessary stage of becoming impossible to manipulate: the grief of awakening. You must be completely prepared for the devastating reality that as you become stronger, clearer, and more boundaried, your social circle will violently shrink. You will look around and realize with a cold, sinking horror that a massive percentage of your friendships, your professional alliances, and even your romantic connections were not built on genuine love, mutual respect, or authentic alignment, but were built entirely on your willingness to be used, to be silent, and to be small. When you stop being the eternal giver, the endless listener, and the infinite well of forgiveness, the people who are only there to extract resources from you will vanish like ghosts in the morning light. You will experience a period of profound, echoing loneliness, and the invisible rule of society will whisper in your ear that you have made a terrible mistake, that your boundaries have made you unlovable, and that it is better to be manipulated in a crowded room than to be sovereign in an empty one. You must aggressively fight this illusion. This loneliness is not a punishment. It is a sacred, necessary clearing of the toxic brush. A biological quarantine where your nervous system finally has the space and the silence required to heal from years of chronic, invisible abuse. During this vital period of isolation, you must transition from a defensive posture to a state of predictive immunity. Being impossible to manipulate does not just mean surviving attacks. It means developing a psychological radar so finely tuned, so ruthlessly perceptive, that you can spot a manipulator from 1,000 miles away and completely deny them entry into your reality before they even have a chance to speak. You will learn to recognize the subtle, early warning signs. The person who shares highly intimate, traumatic details of their life within the first 10 minutes of meeting you, deliberately attempting to artificially manufacture deep trust and bypass your natural vetting process. The person who constantly portrays themselves as the eternal victim in every single story they tell, subtly communicating to you that nothing is ever their fault, and setting the stage to eventually blame you when things go wrong. The person who uses weaponized flattery, praising you for being the only one who understands them. A calculated phrase designed to isolate you and make you feel a heavy, crushing sense of responsibility for their emotional well-being. When you develop predictive immunity, you do not argue with these people. You do not try to expose them, and you certainly do not try to heal them. You simply observe their tactics with the cold, detached amusement of a scientist, and you silently, gracefully pivot away, rendering yourself completely invisible to their radar. You will learn to employ the brilliant, devastating tactic known as the mirror of accountability, where, instead of defending yourself against a manipulator's twisted logic, you effortlessly reflect their behavior back onto them by forcing them to explain their toxicity in plain, undeniable language. If a manipulator makes a passive-aggressive, insulting joke to belittle you in front of a crowd, instead of laughing nervously or storming off in anger, you simply stop, look them dead in the eye with absolute, unblinking calmness, and ask, "What exactly did you mean by that?" When they inevitably scramble, backpedal, and accuse you of being too sensitive, you do not break eye contact. You hold the agonizing silence and say, "I am not being sensitive. I am asking you to explain the joke." This simple, emotionless demand for clarity acts as psychological kryptonite, instantly destroying the manipulator's plausible deniability and exposing their cowardice for everyone to see. As you integrate these advanced architectures of psychological defense into your daily life, a profound, almost magical transformation will occur deep within your biology. You will stop living in a state of hypervigilance, constantly scanning the room for threats and frantically worrying about what everyone else is thinking, because you will possess the absolute, unshakable certainty that no matter what anyone says, no matter what lies they tell, and no matter what emotional traps they set, you hold the ultimate authority over your own mind. You will develop an undeniable, radiant aura of untouchability, a quiet, dangerous confidence that predators can sense instinctively, causing them to lower their eyes and walk the other way when you enter a room. You will finally experience the breathtaking, expansive freedom of authentic human connection, because when you ruthlessly eliminate the manipulators, the vampires, and the emotional parasites from your life, you create a pristine, protected space for truly brilliant, equal, and mutually empowering relationships to flourish. The people who remain in your life and the new people you allow into your fortress will respect you deeply, because they will know that your presence is a choice, not an obligation. And your love is a freely given gift, not an extracted payment. As we bring this heavy, transformative journey to its ultimate conclusion, let the crushing weight of your own latent power settle permanently into your soul. You are not put on this earth to be a pawn in someone else's twisted psychological game. You are not born to carry the heavy, suffocating baggage of broken people who refuse to heal themselves. And you are absolutely not required to set yourself on fire just to keep other people warm. The chains of guilt, the fear of disapproval, the desperate need for external validation, and the agonizing trap of being nice at the expense of your own survival. These are all nothing but illusions cheap parlor tricks designed by weak, predatory minds to steal your magnificent light. Today, in this exact, singular, irreversible moment in time, you have the absolute authority to rewrite the rules of engagement. You have the unprecedented power to close your heart to those who view it as a resource, to silence the noise of their okay.